field of consciousness, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that all of us are sitting in, but most of us don't even know or are even aware of. The field of consciousness is basically a field of that contains every single piece of information that ever existed in all space, dimensions, and time. We all exist in that field. It's almost like the air we breathe, okay? So that field of consciousness contains consciousness from all space and time. So from all centuries before this and present time. So, you know, there's a saying that says energy is neither created nor destroyed. Field of consciousness is the same thing. So all information exists in that field. And because we are all existing in that field, we all have access to it. However, because we do not know about it, we do not know how to tap into it. But I want to just explain to everyone what it is so we can tap into it. So the field of consciousness is this all-knowing, all-encompassing space that we are all here, part of. And our thoughts, we get our thoughts not just from ourselves, but from this field of consciousness. And we contribute to this field of consciousness with our thoughts, which is why it's so important to know, to be selective about what you introduce into your consciousness in terms of what you read, what you watch on TV, what you watch on social media, what you ingest through reading, and the experiences that you have in your reality. All of those things form your personal consciousness, which then presses out into the field of consciousness. So the best example is what took place over the last 2 years. All of us heard about this thing that was coming. All of us feared this thing that was coming. All of us believed in this thing that was coming. And so we created a field of consciousness that actually started to manifest the general thought and consciousness of the mass. So the field of consciousness is not to be toyed with. Think about it. It's, and I'm going to say this, thoughts are electromagnetic. And so when we put them out, they reverberate out into the ether. Now, imagine many people reverberating negative thoughts out into the ethers. This is how you will have a localized community or a localized area where there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of rage, and there's a lot of violence. And then you can go into another area where what primary emotions being expressed are love, peace, tranquility, beauty, kindness, compassion. Can you see the difference? So the field of consciousness is controlled by the mass consciousness. And so this is why we as a collective actually have control in our reality. So where this field of consciousness concept is considered, we sometimes feel powerless regarding issues in society that we cannot solve. Take, for example, crime. That's a huge one. We're talking also about black men, because I'm living in Jamaica, so we're talking about our Jamaican men. But in the US, they're talking about black men. And they're saying the system has done this to our men. There are no solutions. We're praying for the men. We do our best for the men. But how about all of us deciding that we are going to place into the field of consciousness for our men, empowering thoughts about our men, empowering visions of our men being the men that we want them to be. Communicate with them the men that we would like to see. And the men that are embodying what we'd like to see, portray that more. Think about that more. Because remember, thoughts are electromagnetic. And so if we think of that kind of male principle, that vision of a male, then that's what we're going to attract into our reality. But what are we doing currently? We're thinking that, oh, men are dogs. They're unfaithful, and some of them are violent, and some of them are worthless, they don't work. And so what do we manifest in our lives? The things that we think about, because we're watching it on social media, we're listening to it in the music. So our field of consciousness becomes a reflection of what we feed our consciousness with. So then what we project out into the field of consciousness is the image that we are feeding. So if we want to change the reality of our men in the field of consciousness, we need to feed our consciousness with the ideals. And so we expect to see the ideals. We surround ourselves with those ideals. And then more and more men will want to emulate those ideals rather than what is happening now, where we see young men wanting to emulate the less than favorable characteristics in masculinity. So that's another way that we can utilize field of consciousness to change the reality that we are all in as a collective.
Well, let me hear you say, man.